So I do want to spend a few minutes reinforcing something that I had said during the first training. So I'm going to and welcome everyone again to our part two of creating accessible PowerPoint presentations, PowerPoint presentations tutorial. And Heather, I shared with everyone on the first webinar that I do have a background in special ed. I'm starting my 26th year in adult education. I taught for quite a long time as a GED, ABE instructor. I took a sojourn to K through 12 for about a year and a half, and then came back to adult ed. And a few years ago, I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I was thinking about it. I got involved with accessibility, and I've been in love ever since. And I've got two family members that are severely disabled. So we like to say in this field that accessibility, like adult ed, right? It finds you, and it becomes very personal very quickly if you have someone in your family. But also many of my students have been disabled through the years. So that's kind of my background real quickly. So, but I did want to start on slide 3 for a minute because I wanted to add something. What we're talking about are guidelines, whether it's guideline 1 using slide layouts, guideline 2 doing alt text for images. These are not recommendations. They are required under both federal and state law and university and policy procedure. But beyond that, both federal law and state law, and when I say federal law, at least right now, we're being held to Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. But as far as I know, the mother of all laws is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And there's different titles, and we fall under Title II, which is for local and state government. So there was just a big revision. And in the law, they have adopted something called WCAG 2.1.
Okay.
And WCAG 2.1 is called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And I don't want to go too much into it, but everything we do to a PowerPoint, these guidelines go back to a required principle in WCAG. And so that's why WCAG is so important. And WCAG, I want you to write this down. Pour, and I'm going to explain to you what each one of those means. Pour, like pour a pitcher of water. Pour, P means perceivable.
Okay.
O means operable. U means understandable. And R means robust. So everything that we do with our PowerPoint, our Word documents, our PDFs, and on a website follows the POUR principles. So WCAG's guidelines are broken down into some fall under the P, some fall under the O, some fall under the U, and some fall under the robust. So do I have them all memorized? No, but I can usually point you to what part of WCAG we're talking about, right? So I wanted to kind of give you that this is best practice, but it's also required. So when we pay big money to have a document made accessible by an outside company, they are checking against WCAG. That's what they're checking. And then they certify that our material is now WCAG compliant. And there's other guidelines, like there's Section 508, there's one for Health and Human Services, but really, and there's even another more advanced one, but they all follow WCAG. So the law has said, okay, part of the accessibility is going to be meeting WCAG. So I just wanted to kind of give you that background, because I'm a why person. When someone tells me to do something, I'm like, well, why? Why? I want to know why. So that's why I wanted to tell you. Okay, so
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And we're going to start going more to, well, you'll hear more about that. In the university is what God has to be WCAG 2.1 compliant. We're already, they're already writing 2.3, but we're just responsible for 2.1. Okay. We're gonna move on, and I think we've all got slide layouts, right? I don't think we need to kind of go over slide layouts anymore. I think we can move on from that. We talked about, one of the things, Heather, that we talked about was that's gonna be weird because I see myself over here. We talked about when you're in PowerPoint, and remove it. And you can see, do you see this designer option little icon up here, up in the far right-hand corner?
Yeah, don't use it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're gonna move on. You know, PowerPoint.
I did get to see the recording, so I'm glad
Okay,
for that.
awesome. All right, well, thank you so much for doing that. So, okay, we're gonna move on. So what I want to start with then is I think we did images, but we got, because there were so many good questions, I want to go over adding visuals, but we all know how to we all know how to add visuals. Either you use a little icon, or you can go up here to the top of your ribbon up here and you can use insert. That's fine.
I have a quick question about that,
Yeah,
because I'm able to insert with no problem from the top, but on the bottom, mine doesn't come with those little tiny icons. Is it just because of the version I have?
I think so, and I think that may be one of those little nuances that doesn't transfer if you're going from Google to Microsoft. I'm not exactly sure.
I didn't do it. I started a new Microsoft one completely. So I didn't transfer.
So no worries. We talked about that during the training. So thank you for.
Yeah. I also had a question about this widget, for lack of a better term. So we've got this box that gives us these 4 options. And one of the things that I was trying to do is that I was trying to see, could I add another one of these boxes? Because you have the 1-column version and you have the 2-column version. And I was like, could I do a 3-column version? And I could not copy and paste these little boxes that have these little features in them. And I could not figure out how to create one of my own, except for the ones that come with the slide layout. Do you know anything about how to create these little features?
Okay, so that was kind of a two-parter.
Okay.
So I think what I'm hearing is that you want a different slide master that allows you to have more than one of these, these placeholders.
Right, because I found that
doodaddies.
Yeah, because I was looking at some of my graphics and I was like, okay, I need to be able to present 3 graphics side by side for best results.
Okay, yep, I see what you're saying. Okay, there is a way around that, and I'm going to get really, really weedy for a minute. So just let me explain this.
Okay.
What you could do, and I've done this before, because here comes the challenge. If you have 3 different, and you could do the first one and put it in there, and then you could just add the second one and the third one. It's not ideal. I know you're trying to go to the letter, but what I would do is maybe add the first one using your widget and then go back up and do insert the 3. Okay?
Insert and
go up
then
here to insert and then do another 2 and just add them to the slide.
So inserting the image through the insert command.
So you're going to have 3.
Okay.
And let me go forward let me take this and run with this. So let's say that you have 3. Do you know how to capture the images and arrange them so that it becomes one picture? And then you just have to alt text all 3 of them instead of each one.
That's what I ended up doing because I couldn't do it the way that I was originally thinking. So I did use the snipping tool to capture the image, and then I arranged them side by side, captured the image, deleted them, and then inserted them using the widget.
Okay, that's awesome, but
then added alt text saying this image is 3 images. First image says this, second image says this, third image says this.
The other way you could do it, let me see if I can, okay, it came up beautiful. All right, so let's add this one.
Okay.
You've seen these before, so just bear with me for a minute. I want to see if this.
I was
won't be
just
a-
curious if
Mhm.
if on the PowerPoint, like, so because I don't have PowerPoint, I have Google
Hi,
Slides.
Christy, how are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just curious if so on Google Slides it's just a little plus sign in the corner. Is that the
Mhm.
same thing?
To add
You
a
mean-
to add a slide, you mean?
Well, where you add the picture, where you so that it is accurately, because like I on Google Slides or on oh, it's a Friday. There,
Yeah.
when you want to
Yeah, I
put an
understand.
image into the slide, there's a little button in the corner that has a plus, and that's what you push, and then you click your photo. I'm not, it doesn't look anything like this at all. I just wasn't sure if that's the same thing or.
When I click maybe we're thinking of different plus signs, because when I click the plus sign in my Google Slides, I get a new slide.
Let me turn this around actually. All right, so for example, here's an image. That's the plus sign
Oh,
up there.
that's different.
Unfortunately, that's very blurry for me. So
Oh, you know what? I have a blurred background, I think. Let me see if I can undo the whatever is going on in the background effect. None. There we go. There it is. If I want to add a picture or a shape or something, I can. And I just say, okay, I want to add an image, and it'll let me like search through my images like that.
Maybe if we had time, when we
Okay.
get through this, maybe Christy, we can have you share your screen and you can show us. Can we do that maybe? At the end?
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah, no worries. I've been trying to
Yeah.
follow along, but I'm like, we are not
Yeah.
looking at the same
Yeah.
thing.
No, I know. And I thank you so much for for being such a team player and wanting to learn. So thank you. Okay, but I think we're gonna have time if we kind of stick to the time. And then
Mhm.
that way you can share your screen, right? Because I want to learn too in Google, because I don't use Google as much as I do Microsoft. So I want to learn too. So maybe we can spend a little time. So, all right. So Gareth, to your question about inserting documents, yes, you can. Just do the snippets tool, make it, save the picture and then insert it that way. But what I just did was I just
Mhm.
added 3 pictures. The first one I used the widget
Mhm.
in the placeholder, and then the other 2 I just inserted, right? So what I want to
Yeah.
show you is that really all of these pictures have a theme. So if I wanted to do alt text for all of them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to grab them. Yes. And it captured all of them. So I'm going to go to I'm going to attempt to, okay, let's see. I'm going to arrange.
On the left, alt text?
No, not alt text yet.
Oh.
Hold on. But yeah,
Sorry.
wait. No, but you was that Maxine?
No, it's me. I don't know.
Chris, oh, that was Heather. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What I'm trying, let's see here. This is what I
Are you trying to group them? Can you?
Yes, where am I
Oh,
going?
group them, yeah.
I'm gonna go, okay,
It's
where
not
am I?
allowing it right now. They did that with mine too when I was trying to group something.
Oh, wait a minute, but they're moving together.
It's already
Okay.
grouped. Maybe
It's
that's
already
why.
grouped. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna go to view all text, and then I think Heather said, then I could do something like examples of both visual and hidden disabilities, or something that kind of just describes all those pictures together instead of having to do alt text for all of them. But depending on the slide, this may be decorative, but it may not be. Okay, so when you're doing alt text, you really want to think about what your message is, what the purpose is of the picture. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. And let me see. So this Christy can help you too. This applies whether you're in Google or whether you're in Microsoft, right? Really thinking about alternative text or alt text. We want to be accurate and equivalent, right? The same content or function as the image. Be succinct. And with a period, so the screen reader will pause. Do not use phrases we talked about like image or graphic of, because the screen reader will do that. So they're going to end up hearing it twice. Image of, so you don't need to do that. And what I like to do with my alt text, especially, and Gareth had a really good example last training, was and Ryan's doing this too when she's developing her PowerPoints for the lesson plans, is you may be using screenshots of different documents over and over again because you're explaining something about the document. So you don't have to explain, the alt text doesn't have to explain what the image is, but what it may do is now we're seeing the second page of this PDF, which is described in detail on the page. So if I'm using a screen reader, I go, okay, I just need to focus on what's on the slide, not what's on the picture, because they're just telling, the picture is nothing more than reinforcing what you're describing on the slide. When I use pictures in my PowerPoints, I use them to tell a story. If I don't need a picture to help me tell the story on my slide or my message, I will not use a picture. I don't have a problem with a basic PowerPoint. Some people feel compelled to do a bunch with their PowerPoint, which is fine. So if I don't need the picture, I don't include it. But that's kind of a designer's, right? That's a designer's decision. I tend to lean toward more simple is better for a lot of reasons. I want them to focus on the content of what I'm trying to do. So those are some things to kind of just think about, but everything you're creating is different, right? Everything is different. So let me move this down to
one of the things that I noticed is that the automatic AI alt text that is generated very often will say a screenshot of or a.
it's horrible. Yeah.
So we don't want that. We don't
No.
want it to just, because it's going to say this is an image of, and so then it would hear this is an image of a screenshot of it, and that just feels very tedious.
Right. And that's also a very good point. And that is also, it's usually very wrong. What they give you the description of is horrible. So we don't want to use that. But yeah, it will repeat.
I was wondering though, I thought it might be useful for them to know it's not just an image and it's an actual screenshot that I, because I'm trying to show them my screen, so I want them to know I'm showing them my screen.
Okay. Yeah. Give me
There
an
could be a
example.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Heather, give me an example.
So it's like intro to emails, what I'm doing. And so they need to, so we're on the Google web page and I have a screenshot of the Google web page and one part of that web page has been circled in the picture. And so I want them to know this is an actual screenshot of an actual Google web page with something circled. So you'll find it just like this if you go on the Google web page.
And that's going to be your alt text.
Yeah, well, not all that, but
yeah, but part of it. Okay, so I'm going to completely delete what I said earlier. If it is a screenshot, the screen reader is going to say image of screenshot, right? So if it is a screenshot, I have no problem with the screenshot. But if it's a picture, you don't need it to say, you don't need to say image. If it's what was the other example? Well, image or picture, because it is a picture. So if it literally is a screenshot and I think that's fine.
Okay.
And again, I think the thing, and I want to say, learn from my mistake. I've agonized way too much over what to put in my alt text. It really is an art, and there's a lot of variation, right? A lot of it comes down to, what do I want to say? There's different ways to write alt text. So the more you do it, the better you will get at it. And I always go back to this. If I close my eyes, what do they need to know? If they can't see what's on the screen, what's on the what's on the slide, what do they need to know? Do they need to know something different than what I'm writing on the slide? What you don't want to do is repeat exactly what's on the slide as the alt text. That you don't want to do either, because then they're hearing it twice. So something other than, you know, again, if I was talking about invisible disabilities, I've used this one before with post-traumatic stress disorder. I would, you know, if it was about post-traumatic stress disorder, and it can be a severe hidden disability, I would say a man sitting, you know, sitting down, his head in his hands, possibly looks like he's in distress and he's really struggling. And that reinforces that word. And I may say next to him on the table is a written in chalk is PS, you know, PTSD, something like that. So you don't want to repeat what you've said. You want to, you know, reinforce or describe how the picture reinforces. All right, so we use this one. You saw, Heather, you saw the recording, so I used that example, right? All right, I've got one for you. I use these a lot. These are actually symbols that you can insert from PowerPoint. I think they're called symbols. They're little icons. This is decorative. I would just do decorative because they don't need to know that. But I've got one for you. And the more I've got one for you guys to practice with. So the more I thought about this, and this actually comes from my drawing conclusions lesson plan that I wrote for the original adult ed med lesson plans. Okay, this is an actual OSHA poster that I downloaded that's available in English and Spanish, and we made it available. So I know that this is a lot of what you are dealing with, right? On your PowerPoint slides are these more complicated, detailed graphics. So I have an alt text already written for this, but I wanted to give you, and before I give you a chance to practice with this alt text, I want to give you this important note, and this is out of context, but I felt it was important because I see it over and over again when I'm remediating PowerPoints. In adult education, we use acronyms a lot, don't we? We use acronyms a lot. AEL, Teams, TWC, but what we don't want to do in our PowerPoints is use acronyms without introducing them once somewhere in the PowerPoint, because someone with a screen reader is going to everyone gets confused. So I just put here, always spell out acronyms the first time, both on the PowerPoint slides and in the alt text field. We can't assume a person trying to comprehend the content will know what the acronym means. Okay, so it made me think of that because of OSHA, because I had to stop and remember what OSHA stood for myself. So, all right, so what would be, and let me go full screen. Are there any questions? Let me see, I think I saw. Oh, okay. Okay. Let me go full screen so you guys can see it a little bit bigger. What are you seeing? My notes, or which one are you seeing?
Yeah, we are seeing the notes side.
All right, so we're going to swap. There you go. So there we go. So how in one or two sentences, make two sentences. You're going to need two to three sentences. Sometimes I break the 2-sentence rule, y'all, with the alt text. 2 to 3 sentences. How would you describe this poster?
Excellent question. You want us to put our ideas in the chat?
If I can find the chat. There we go. Yep. We'll just take a few minutes. Or when you're ready, we'll all put them in at one time. We'll do a waterfall. I love the waterfall, right? Just write it in chat, and then when we're all ready, we'll hit, and then you guys can. And Christy, I can actually show you how to download the accessibility feature for alt text in Google Slides if you haven't found it already, because I added it in my Google Slides, because I started practicing with accessibility features in Google Slides, so I can show you at some point. If I can remember how to find it. But how we doing? Want to give it a shot, or about another minute, you think? Watching the time here.
I'm good.
Okay, Maxine, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. Gareth?
Just sent mine in.
Huh? Oh, shared it. Awesome. Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, these are so good. Man with a mustache, baseball hat. I like yours better, actually. I worked construction for 10 years before my fall. It shattered the occupational stuff. Oh, that's awesome. A man saying I worked construction, use the right equipment. This is an advertisement. Okay, Heather, great. Poster to raise awareness about safety. Top of a quote, raising awareness. Okay, these are all good. Poster for occupational safety. This poster emphasizes working safely, using the right equipment, and provides OSHA contract information. Nice. After a fall from a ladder. Yep. Okay, very good.
Fun
All
how
right,
we're all
these are-
different though.
Yeah, I love how,
They
yeah,
are.
they are. But I guess what I love, and we did this out of training that I went to, they asked us to do the same thing, and then they posted them on the chatbot is, does it give you an idea if I was blind, regardless of which one I looked at, I would know what that poster was about, wouldn't I?
I think so.
And, yep, and it would reinforce, it would reinforce what was on the slide, whatever that is, and I can't remember right now. But I think it was an activity about drawing conclusions, yes, because in the lesson plan, I asked them to make inferences about the hidden message of this poster, because in my mind, there is a very serious hidden message in this poster, right? You work construction. If you don't watch what you're doing,
Mhm.
you're going to lose your life, not just your hand or hurt your back. You're going to lose your life. So,
I had
okay.
a student once who had a fall off of a roof because somebody else didn't use the safety equipment correctly, so they didn't set it up correctly. And they survived the fall, but they ended up destroying their ankle. And it was irreparable. They had to surgically remove his ankle.
Right, exactly. Many years ago, I had a dear friend, and she was a woman, and she was a sheet metal worker in Sacramento, California, where a lot of my teaching career was. And they were working on the Capitol roof, and they were bringing in those enormous air conditioning units, those huge units that are on the top of the buildings. And they were told repeatedly to pay attention because of the big cables swinging. And someone wasn't paying attention, and the cable swung around, and he looked down, and he no longer had his hand. It had completely sliced off his hand. So, yeah. So anyway, I digress a little bit, but that's so true. You have to be so careful. So let's look at my alt text, but I think mine is not as good. Now that I've read all of yours, oh, can't see it. Okay, that's why I was like, where can you see it? All right.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. An Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA poster. Got my parentheses here. That discusses the importance of safety on the job. The headline reads, work safely, use the right equipment. So we all did awesome, but I wanted to give you an example of a more detailed one, which it sounds like most of you are all going to have, okay? So,
Oh yeah.
all right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna say goodbye to alt text, and we're gonna go into font type and size, okay? The size and the type of font used also affects the accessibility of a PowerPoint presentation. Now, I learned the coolest thing the other day when I was preparing for this. We have two types of fonts that you can use. Serif fonts and sans serif fonts, okay? Examples of sans serif fonts are here. They're very clean. Calibri, Verdana, Arial, Chahom is another one that I didn't add here, but we could. So, and then I could go up here, and that's not the right one, so I can go down. So let's go find font, and let's get it. There we go. So there's toe. Now the accessibility community, this is one of those ones where you can't go directly to a WCAG 2.0 checkpoint, but it has to be, which one would it meet? Perceivable, operable, understandable, or robust? Understandable. If I can't understand the font, then I'm in trouble. Now, do you notice what's the difference between these fonts? And I don't want you to read the notes there. What is the difference? Go ahead, Maxine.
The sans serif are just cleaner. They don't have little tags and loops and.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And I learned serif fonts have these little feet at the ends of the letters, while sans serif fonts go barefoot, like Arial. I love that. I just love that. It's simple clue, but often a useful first step. Okay, so that's exactly right.
Sans just means without in French.
That's right. I was, Heather, you said that, right?
Yes.
I thought that was true, but I didn't want to say that. So thank you. Yeah, without.
I mean, I don't know. In French it is. I don't know if that's what it's for this, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's the case, is that it just means without.
Exactly. Exactly. So you don't have these loopy-loos. So one are these little fancy dancy things. So the other thing is that be thoughtful, and this is just about being clean all the way through. Be thoughtful of how many different fonts you are using throughout your PowerPoint. I recommend you stick with one or two, that's it, and not change it up too much, okay? So just a recommendation there that just helps keep the PowerPoint, cleaner, looks more professional all the way through. So this is an Anne Marie suggestion. Again, you're not going to find this written down, but I am starting to see a lot of accessibility professionals kind of follow this, and I call it my 44 to 40, 24 reminder or rule, right? So what I recommend is for your title, sometimes I think they're way too big, 60. I don't think it needs to be, your title needs to be 60 or even 50, because you want to think about screen magnification, but 50 or 60 or 70 may be needed if you are in the grand ballroom of the Hyatt in downtown Dallas. If you're in a big, huge ballroom, How many of you been to a presentation where you couldn't see a darn thing on the slides? They drive
Yep.
me crazy.
Yeah.
Saw
then-
several very
Yep.
recently.
And then they give you a PowerPoint with 3 on a slide and you can't read anything on the slides.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I recommend sticking to a 40 to a 45 size font for the slide title and no smaller than a 24 size font for the body text inside the slide holder layouts. Okay, now be careful again not to make the font size too large or too small because of screen magnification. Now, I was just at a training last month for PDF, and the trainer said for a Word document, you really don't want to go bigger than 14 because of screen magnification. So you want to go between 12 and 14, which I've been doing wrong. So I've been staying with 12 and 14 for my Word documents. Now, something not here, but is also important, is how much text are you cramming onto a slide? And I am guilty of this. I have started doing 4 more slides if I need to versus cramming all this text onto a slide. And if you have a lot of text and you start using multiple transitions, that's also confusing for someone with a disability because they're trying to keep up with all the transitions. So if you find yourself having a lot of text, it's time for another slide. And a new slide can act like a new transition because they won't know it, will they? You could go from one slide to another slide instead of cramming a lot of text on a slide. So those are just recommendations for fonts and font size. So 44 to 40 to 24 reminder. Heather.
I have a question. Yeah, the front, our first slide, our presentation slide that we're supposed to use, the template is 54. So do we change that or?
You can, yeah, I would, but
Okay.
I'll let Gareth decide. I mean, again, it's not something that, you know, is going to be, I would, but Gareth, you all decide as a team if you want to make it that big. I mean, if you want to
Okay.
keep it that
On the
size.
first
And let me just at least take a look at how that shapes up.
It looks
Yeah.
kind of
44
small. It looks kind of
44
small.
looks a
when I-
bit small, and but it's
Yeah.
still reasonably sized. At the top we have in the view master, let me see, in the slide master, the top text is in, what size font is that? That's quite large.
Yeah, does that look large?
72
Does that look
in the
small?
slide master at 72.
Yeah, does that look small, font size on the screen?
Not in there, no.
Mhm.
It looks small on our template
Our first
title
slide.
screens.
Yeah. First slide.
Yeah. Well, kind of play around because you could always make it bigger or smaller depending on where you are, right? So it's up to you. And
But
I
as
know
a guideline, 44, 40, 24 works
exactly
for
right.
accessibility.
Mhm. Now, some of these are not negotiable according to WCAG, and that's what we're going to transition to now.
Okay, so we're getting to the non-negotiable stuff.
Non-negotiable, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember the color contrast one and looking at the tools for testing color contrast from last time. I also remember being very frustrated. I had a while back, I helped make a geometry lesson, and it went to an accessibility company who applied a whole bunch of changes and basically broke every animation that I had set up. It basically broke most of the images, actually put in images that did not match the problem that they were trying to demonstrate, and so it completely broke the math that I was trying to teach. But the thing that frustrated me the most is that it went through an accessibility company and it failed the color contrast test on multiple slides. Sorry, that was just a digression because I feel very strongly about color contrast, and
yeah, so do I. Yeah,
people mess it up.
I know they do. So, I mean, I just want to commend all of you for wanting to learn. Here it is, 3:16 on a Friday afternoon, and we're plugging away with this. So yeah, now I do want to say something about transitions. Unless we tell an accessibility company not to take, we tell them not to mess with the transitions, right? They will take them out simply because it does start to get in conflict with WCAG 2.1, because there's a very technical spec that basically says that a person using a PowerPoint presentation must be able to, they've got to be able to turn the transitions off, because they've got to be able to control the transitions, okay? There's also the whole understandable part. Transitions are important when you're bringing in the equations and everything like that, but at the same time, it becomes very difficult for some people with disabilities because they want to see all the information on the slide. But there's a workaround to that, Gareth, and that is, if a person with a disability is really struggling with the PowerPoint in its raw form, remember what I said at the beginning of this, the PowerPoint will become a PDF.
Okay.
And we'll probably have to dismantle those transitions. We may even have to do separate slides, but it's about being able to get that information across. So again, it's that equivalent, right? It's that equivalent experience. May not look exactly the same, but is it equivalent?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe I follow.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when we do like a PowerPoint presentation for the MTA math materials, we leave those transition in and it stays in the PowerPoint. And I've been very clear with the accessibility companies, what they touch and what they don't touch. So I'm very protective of you guys and what you create. But
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, because I'm a creator too. So I come at it from two different angles. One from an accessibility remediator and one as a content.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where accessibility means different things. And if a student is struggling with math, very often giving them visuals is hugely important, and showing things in motion can be important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It can be. That's true. There's just, and that's where you have that flexibility, right? For one person, motion may be important, but if I have ADHD and I'm on the spectrum, motion becomes a situation where now I don't know what I'm looking at anymore.
You reminded me of a demonstration that I saw recently for I think it was Nearpod, and it's integrated lessons, and they were demonstrating how they had, okay, so here's this line. What does this line mean? And then it has an animation where it shows what that line means. And as soon as they showed me that animation, that's all I could think about. It's like, you're telling me about the rest of this math lesson. No, I care about the turtle on the beach now that you've used in your animation.
You just proved my point. So if I've got 5 animations that come in on one slide on fractions, I'm focused on, well, where did that one go? And why did that one disappear? And why is this one coming in? And pretty soon I've lost complete focus. Now, if you're on the spectrum, it causes other issues. It can cause other issues. It can cause them to get very unsettled. I don't know why, because that's not my background, but I've just heard. So, okay.
Yeah.
So going with this, we talked about foreground and background. Well, we won't go over these because I've got another one I'm going to have you guys practice with. I'm looking at the time. We know this doesn't pass. There's not enough contrast. And CAD 2.1 does have a specific guideline. It must meet a minimum of 4.5.1. It can be a little bit smaller if it's large or if you bold, okay?
Okay.
And we also want to remember that if you change the foreground and the background and it passes or it fails, when you flip it, it's going to pass or it's going to fail. So both of these pass. We tested it out. But remember, if you reverse, it's going to pass or fail.
Okay.
So you want to be really careful with blues and greens. That is not an area of expertise for me, but I do know that there's a real challenge with color blindness color blindness with blues and greens. So I tend to stay away from blues and greens. If I use blue, I use a really dark midnight blue. But I tend to stay away from pastels on my PowerPoints. I try to do like really bold, bold things. And one thing I forgot to tell you guys, which is a really cool thing to do, I learned this really early on. And we have it now, but if you have accessibility, look at this, inspect with color. Do you guys see this up
Okay.
here? You can inspect the color.
That was going to
and
be
it-
the thing that I said next. Yeah, this is something that artists do when they're trying to, make sure that their art is readable, is that they put everything in grayscale. If your colors can't be interpreted in grayscale and still be readable, then you have unreadable colors.
That's exactly right. And the workaround for this before PowerPoint got snappy and gave us this tool was, guess where I went? I went to print
it.
preview.
Yep.
And did grayscale. Yeah, so Maxine's nodding. I'm so glad, Maxine, because I know Maxine is got a background in Microsoft, so I hope I'm doing okay, Maxine, with this. Because yeah, so that was the workaround. Go and look in grayscale. Okay. So let's go back and change it. All right, so here's one for you. Now for the sake of time, I want to keep moving because I do want to do the spell check. So I want to keep moving, but I'm pretty sure this one's not going to pass. And there's that blue and that green. So we could.
Yeah, because that looks fine to me as a person who can see colors fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They're both, one's blue and one's green. There's a tone difference. So that might help if we put it into grayscale. But
oh yeah, let's check. Let's check. But it's barely.
It's not good enough.
I don't like it.
That would be hard to read.
Yeah. Pops is not here with me, Heather. My father is one that's severely disabled, but he's also colorblind. So I use Pops as an example a lot of times. I'll be like, Pops, how's this? And he's like, I don't know what that is. What is that? So growing up, what we used to do with his color pens is he would give me money. I would go to the office with him and I'd write a little sticky on his pen. This is yellow, blue, because he didn't know. So when he would, do his training with his staff, he would know to do the right pen. So there you go. Anyway, okay. So this one is going to pass no problem with this white on the gold, right? Okay. These are my two favorites. There are other free contrast checkers out there, but I like these because they're pretty clean. They don't have all those ugly ads all over the pages, and you're afraid, you got to be so careful not to click on those ads. So I like these because they're clean. And WebAIM is one of my favorites. If you haven't checked out WebAIM, most of the trainings that I provide you all, I always go to WebAIM. And I look at a lot of their things. They're wonderful. I also am part of an international WebAIM. You can get on their listserv and hear all of the conversations. I'm not sure anyone in the accessibility field sleeps because these people are up all night long on listservs talking about stuff. All the designers and the engineers trying to do all the back end stuff. Okay, so this one. And you know what? I want to go back just a minute. Everything we're talking about also applies to Word documents, also applies to your emails. If you guys have your email signature that is an image, that's not best practice because they cannot read it. So if you're going to have a signature in your email, make it a regular signature, not a picture of your name and your organization and all of that, because they can't. So some things to think about. How are your colors in your emails? Can they read your emails with the colors that you're using? I can see Gareth going, I never thought about this.
Well, I was just thinking, because, if you set up your email signature, does the email signature have the option to have alt text?
It does. Your email has, well, if you make your email signature an image, which I
Okay.
just recently saw on a colleague of mine back east. And I told her, you got to fix that. You're in the accessibility field. Your whole signature is an image, but I could take that image and I could put alt text to it.
Okay.
Just like any image in my email. Like if I send a happy birthday emoji, I could right click on the image and do the emoji, and I could say that happy birthday. So I could put this as a, happy birthday emoji. All right, so best practice for links and hyperlinks. We want to avoid inserting the long
Mm-hmm.
URL because the screen reader is going to read every single character in the example above. So,
Yeah.
I know that's it. If I'm going to give the presentation printed, I may do the longer URL, but I'd shorten it with like a bit.ly or something. But you want to, if they're going to access it like in a PDF and they need to know where to go to find the information, then you have to create a descriptive hyperlink. And one thing I do a lot when I do presentations is there will be a QR code, right? Now that presents a challenge. So on one side, I have the QR code and I'll say, this is a QR code to a resource. But guess what I do on the other side of the URL? I'll say, access the information, and I'll give them a descriptive hyperlink. So I'm making sure there's no possibility that they're going to miss the information. So Gareth has this awesome Wakelet. URL is right there to the Wakelet. And I'm going to say, this is the direct URL to the Wakelet. But on the very next side, I'm going to say, access Gareth's Wakelet. Here is the direct link to Gareth's Wakelet. And that whole sentence is going to be a descriptive hyperlink. So if I can't use the QR code, I've got it over here too. So again, I'm trying to give the information so everybody can get there.
Yeah. So, do you insert the link to descriptive text if you can?
Exactly. Yes. You need
Control
to,
K.
that is a WCAG, that is a WCAG requirement. So I see a lot of this. Click here. How many times do we get emails or we get announcements? There's a national organization that I will not name that is famous for doing this. They'll send us something and it'll just say, click here for more information.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't like that. We received a couple of emails this week that we were supposed to click, but they just said click here in a way that was like, that doesn't feel right.
Not anymore. Not after this training that we've had, right? Yeah, so exactly. So avoid phrases such as click here or more, read more. So here's an example. I gave you 3 on the document. Avoid writing this, click here to access an article on accessibility principles. Instead, write this. Visit this National Center on Accessible Educational Materials online article to learn more about accessibility principles. Christy, I did this for you because I know you got so excited visiting this website. So I know you love the National Center. That's one of my favorites too. So I could have shortened this a little bit more, but it gives you an idea, right? Visit, I wouldn't say this maybe. Here's the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials online article to learn more about accessibility principles. But if I'm using a screen reader, I know this is a link and I know what it's about. So
and you can go do a Google search for it. Is that the point, or?
No, that's a good point. The point is that if I'm blind, I know that I can click on this because it's telling me, because the screen reader is going to say a link to, and then it's going to read it and it's telling me where I'm going to go.
But how is that different from a link to here?
Because they don't know what it is. If it says a link to, how do I answer that? So you're saying if they say click here, to access information, they don't know what it is. It's not descriptive. What they're clicking on is not descriptive. I
Okay.
guess is the way to describe that.
But even if you described it in the sentences before,
Uh-huh.
like, this is there's a great website you can look at. Click here to go to it. It's not.
But what is it?
Well, I mean, so like you said it in the paragraph before, so
the
like
the
there's a
avoid
great.
phrases click here, but what? Yeah, I think I understand what Heather is talking
Why is
about
it
here.
bad?
Why is click here bad, but visit this is okay? A link to visit is, as the reader's going to say.
So you might have in regular text, there's this great website called National Center of Accessible Educational Materials Online. They have a great article to learn more about accessibility principles. Click here to go there. But how is that?
So you would you would flip it and say, there's a great website that does blah, blah, blah. It's called.
Here is,
Yeah.
You got me on that one, Heather, and I don't know how to describe it, but I'm going to give you a resource that describes why.
Okay.
But I keep going back to, they don't want click here because, okay, so the easiest way to describe this, and I'm going to start over with this example, because as a teacher, I didn't do a very good job explaining this, is that click here, they want, even if you describe it before or after, they want the actual part that they're clicking on to tell them exactly what it is.
Not be an
They don't
instruction,
want
but
it
to be a description.
Yes, to be a description. So help me write what we need to write here, because this is the website. And let me see here, because this is how we all learn. So
Okay, would it be,
yeah, go ahead, Max.
sorry, would it be something like the whatever website tells you blah, blah, blah?
Yep.
Go to the name of the website to learn more. So the link would be in the last sentence, the go to learn more.
Go to the National Center on Educational.
And so the screen reader would, once we get the link in there, the screen reader is going to say a link to go to the National Center on Accessibility, as opposed to a link to click here.
Yep, that's exactly right. Go to the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials.
Website to learn more, yep.
Materials website to learn more.
And before that, you would have the description of what the website does, right?
You could, or maybe not. Or yeah, you could, yeah. Or go to the National Center on Accessible Materials website to learn about, that's kind of what I did, learn about accessible principles.
Does that do it, Heather?
I think what Garrett said about if it's saying the link, it's saying this is a link to click here, is not as good as this is a link to the National Center of Accessibility.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and Heather, going back to, instead of click here to learn more about whatever it is that they're trying to get to after it, the main point is making what they click on descriptive of where they're going.
Okay.
So not click here, but literally describing where they're going to go.
Okay.
So let me show you what, let me see if I can find the website. It's actually going to behave. So can you see it or no? Can you see the website?
Yes.
Okay, so that's actually what I was trying to say. Go to the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials to learn more about, well, creating accessible documents, but we don't need to write that. We get the idea. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to go back to I'll do a new share. Am I sharing? What am I sharing right now?
You're still sharing the website.
Okay, all right, so I need to do, all right, go back to, now what are you seeing? The PowerPoint?
Now I'm seeing the PowerPoint.
Okay, wow, I'm not sure how I quite did that, but I got it to work. All right, I'm gonna insert a link, and now it's gonna be a descriptive link. And actually, Heather, thank you for asking that question, because this gets quite difficult. When you're thinking about doing descriptive hyperlinks, it can be quite challenging, because you don't want to write a book and you don't want to get too wordy, but at the same time, it needs to be descriptive. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up.
Because
So-
I have to imagine that somebody who has to use a screen reader to interact with the internet gets things like click here a lot.
And then you know what gets worse is they click there and then they click there again and they click there again and they don't know where they are and they still can't download their tax document in order to do their.
And they may accidentally click on something like a clickbait, you know, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Trying to click on your thing and they click on the other thing because it's not descriptive.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Well, we don't have time. I'm going to give you this PowerPoint, by the way. If this would help you, I'm going to give you this PowerPoint. But we just actually did this example. So that was pretty awesome. I want to write a descriptive hyperlink so people can access this article from the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials website. Heather, you just set this up like you knew. And your turn. Well, Maxine wrote it. We all wrote it together. So thank you. So we're gonna move on.
Did it. Check.
Okay, so one of the things that we're almost done. We're at guideline 6, and then we're gonna check the accessibility checker. The slide reading order, and I'm gonna go slow because this can get a little weedy and a little bit confusing. The slide reading order is different than the outline view. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I did wrong.
Well, no, you didn't. There was a lot. That was such an awesome example. So thank you. The outline view shows you what is on your slide, but it will not show you text boxes or images. Okay. Now the reading order is the content on your slide that the screen reader sees. Okay. So let me switch here. By default, a screen reader will read the slide title first, followed by other content in elements defined in the slide layout. So it's going to read the title, and then it's going to read everything after that, and then it's going to add your images and your text boxes. Okay, so if you want things in a different order, you can rearrange them in the reading order, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. So that's why I encouraged you way back in guideline 1 to stick with your layouts, watch your outline view, kind of create your outline view to see what you're building on your slide, and make sure you don't have 30 text boxes after what's on the slide, because you're going to have to order all that in the reading order. And you're going to have to figure out the order that you want it to be read, which can be very time consuming as a content developer. And we don't have this kind of time. We don't have this kind of time. So I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to try to see one. Let's just do this slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm on accessibility already. Let's go home. In the newer versions of PowerPoint, you've got this wonderful accessibility ribbon up here at the top that brings you in all of your different things. And here you see your reading order panel. Okay. So actually, I do want to show you too that you can name these, by the way. You can, make a liar out of me now. Why isn't it letting me? All right, well, we won't worry about that, but there is some way that you can change these, but that's okay. So it reads from the bottom up. So it's going to read this one. Oh, not in this one. I got to change this. The older versions will read it from the bottom up. Maxine, I forgot that they changed it. They're reading. Yeah, okay. I will change that on our guide. I've got to do that. So you see the order. So it's gonna read this first, and then it's gonna read that. But if you want to change it, you can just drag it up. Now this one is gonna be read first, and that one's gonna be read second. Okay, but I want to change it back.
So I have a question. If you don't have the accessibility tab, which apparently I don't, and I
Mhm.
just got PowerPoint like this year.
Okay, how
I
do you find it?
don't have that. So yeah, how do you find it?
Okay, that's on your guide.
If it's on the guide, I'll look. I'll look.
Yeah, it describes it yes, it
I'll look.
describes.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, and if not, I will help you. Just email me, okay?
Okay.
And I will help you.
It's
All
under
right.
the review tab, Heather. I think.
That's right, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Maxine, go ahead, share. It's
Okay.
under review,
Okay.
and then,
And check accessibility. I see it.
Yeah.
And then reading order pane.
yeah. And
Okay.
reading order
Yes,
pane,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
we
yes.
just jumped a step. I am so sorry. Thank you, Maxine.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
check accessibility. Forget the accessibility tab. Check accessibility, and there's your reading order pane.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so let's go to another slide because I want to show you pictures. Now, title, we're good. Then we're going to go here to that one, and then we're going to go, it automatically goes from left to right. But if you decide you want something on the right read first, you can just move it up. But sometimes the accessibility checker doesn't like that. So if you want to clear your accessibility checker, you just move it back. But if for some reason you want something read over here first, you can move it up and down. Let's do another one. Okay, so here's the title. It read this one, and then it read the picture after.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that you can do, okay, so why is this being cranky? Why is this? Okay, so I want to, I hope this doesn't confuse you, but I'm going to do. Let's say that you want this
Okay.
to be hidden, okay? What that means.
It becomes automatically registered as decorative, and so the screen reader will ignore it.
Well, no, what that
Oh.
does is it hides it, but I don't know why it's not hiding it, Maxine. What this is supposed to do is if you unclick it, it's supposed to hide it on the slide, but it still reads it to the screen reader. Gareth, what you're talking about is I can go to this picture. All right. And I can go to alt text and I can mark it. Oh, it just,
Yeah, it does that automatically.
did. Okay,
did do
that's
that.
what it did. It marked it as decorative. So it is not gonna, the screen reader is gonna read decorative. So yes, that's a little bit of a difference from the newer versions of PowerPoint, Maxine, I've noticed.
I have another question. I'm sorry.
No, why are you apologizing? That's what we're here for.
So yours says Title I when visuals are, it says content placeholder 2. I don't know if I put it in wrong, but mine say Google Shape 72, page 3, and then it says what it is.
You started at one point, did you have it in Google, you said?
Yes, but they're saved on my computer from another website. Maybe this particular one wasn't, but most of them,
Yeah.
all of them were saved on my computer, even the Google Slide ones. I went and saved it on my computer first.
I wouldn't worry about whether it says Google or whether it says, just make sure it's in the right order. But I think, Heather, that happened because maybe at some point it was in Google. But don't
Okay.
worry. Yeah, that's a good question, but I would worry about the order, not
Okay.
what it says.
Okay, but that'll be annoying for anybody because it's Google Shape 72, page 3 for all of my pictures. All my, not just my pictures, all of
I
my
see what you're saying.
my
It's
words,
saying-
like the question about like all my titles,
Well,
everything.
But you can rename it, right?
I can
Like where it says Google Shape, you can rename it if you want to.
Yeah, but how do you do that,
won't let
Maxine?
me.
It's not letting me.
It won't let me
I
either.
double click on
You double.
I double click on mine and nothing happens.
and nothing happens.
There's no
Mark.
way to change it.
Oh, and it's up here. Wait a minute. There's a way to, wait a minute. Darn it.
'Cause-
I'll check on that. Go ahead, Maxine. I know you're
Okay.
trying to say
I was
something.
gonna say, when I double clicked on the name of it in the reading order, then a text box came open. And,
Oh, is that you, Ryan? Ryan, is that you talking?
oh yeah. See?
Oh,
I can't
here it goes. Yeah.
Maxine's like,
But I
I'm
don't
not
know, I
talking.
didn't change anything. I put something in the box.
Why
It
is it?
changes
I don't
for
know.
my picture, but not for my Google shapes, as they call it, which are my just my
Yeah.
text boxes. They're not text boxes, but they're the formatting boxes.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm not, that's, my goodness, you guys are coming up with good questions.
Sorry.
I don't think, no, stop. Okay, first of all, let's say this together. We do not say we're sorry when we're trying to learn. We ask questions. because
I've had a lot of background of people not happy when I ask questions. So
And you know what? So
my
do
last
I.
job was that way. So
To show that that's the way it's been for me. So I've learned to be empowered, ask questions.
but I need to know because I want to make it right.
Exactly.
So
There is a way to change. So let me go back to what I'm going to check on. To full disclosure, y'all, I am just now starting to learn how to use a screen reader. It is a very, very difficult task to learn how to use a screen reader. And when you use a screen reader, you find out very quickly you have so much respect for people that are blind because that's their whole world is having to use a screen reader.
yeah.
But I don't think it reads the title. I think what it does is it reads
Okay.
whatever the title is, right?
Oh, that's
so
good.
when visuals are complicated, example 4, that's what it's going to read. It's not
Okay.
going to read that stuff at the beginning. But to Ryan's point, I think we can change it. I just can't. It was letting me change it the other day, so it's driving me crazy. And Ryan, you're saying you're clicking on it and it's opening up.
Well, it opened up a box, but I think it's actually opening up alt text. So if you double click, one of those names and
Yes.
box
like
opens
this
up.
one.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
we go.
it only opened up the
Yeah.
pictures. Yeah, for me too.
I thought it was
Okay.
changing the name of the object.
And I forgot that it did that. Okay, so you may not be able to, but
Okay.
okay, so how do I unclick it so it goes off of there? So the point of the reading order is that Dr. Glenda Rose and I talked about this. She recommends that while you're creating your PowerPoint, you create with your outline view open. And as you're doing that, you can check, how everything's coming in. And then every couple slides, I would check your reading order and not wait to the end. So you have 72 slides that you have to fix or you have to check. On the same theme, I would also make sure you are doing the alt text for your images as you go and not be like Anne Marie in the past where she's gotten to the end of 42 slides and had to go back to do her alt text for all of them. That is extremely painful. You can do it how you want, but I would suggest, doing it that way. The other good thing about outline view and looking in your outline view right here is you're going to see if there's like gaps. Okay, so what do I have here? Now that's interesting.
It's because,
see?
yeah, you've spaced
Okay.
down.
Yep, see, make sure you don't have these big spaces because your screen reader is going to read every single one of those spaces. It's going to go space, 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 or whatever it does. So, just look at your formatting if you want to.
But it looks better with spaces sometimes.
I know. And so, yeah, that's true. And I don't like it either. So I'm going to bring it down. I don't care what it's. Okay. And this is decorative, so that's why it's hidden in the reading order. Okay. So we're going to go back to normal. And we are going to, all right, we got 10 minutes. We can do this. Let's just do a couple of them. We're getting done today, you guys. We're going to get done. Okay, so let's run the accessibility checker. I'm going to ask you to ask, my goodness, I'm going to ask for your help. That's why I can't read that. I'm going to ask for your help. Boy, help me.
Ask you to help me.
I'm going to do something. Let's do this. Bye-bye. Get out of there. All right, so let's go to review. We can do it both ways, right? We can go to review and check accessibility, or we can go to our accessibility tab. But let's do check accessibility, and we're going to check accessibility, which is that. So I got all kinds of fun stuff going on here. So missing alt text. I took out all the alt text for all of them. So the man and the dog. That's interesting. I wonder if we could add it Marcus decorative. Okay, I'm going to figure out how to change the titles on those. But we also have to do alt text for this one, and this one. So this one I would mark decorative, right? I mean, if you wanted to say thank you, but I don't think it's necessary. Why is it not necessary? What did I do on the slide where I could mark it? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's in the job title or
The title.
Yep.
Slide title.
Thank you for joining me. So I don't have to say again, thank you. I can mark it decorative, exactly. Because I don't think they're missing anything if they can't see my image of my little chalkboard that says thank you. They're not missing anything. So let's go to, we know why these are warnings. These are warnings, but we need to fix them. And there is in the accessibility world in WCAG, there are errors and there are warnings. Okay, errors mean there is some type of a WCAG. We got to do this. WCAG 2.1 says you need alternate text. Well, a warning is a warning, but you still want to make sure that your participants can read your content. So we know that this is not a pass. See, this one did come up as a warning. So there we go. We know that we got an issue.
Okay.
And this one is also coming up. So it's saying check them. They may be okay, but we need to check them. So I was going to have you guys do this. So I'm going to let you guys do this one for me. There's a duplicate side title here, and I did it on purpose. So we have best practices for hyperlinks, right?
Yeah, this was a big problem for my slides that I hadn't considered. Is I would basically introduce a category and say, oh, okay, this is the insert menu category. So that's what the title was.
Yep. Yeah, give your teammates a little background on that. So you had like the same slide title because you were building on each one, right?
Yeah, so because I'm trying to explore what this this menu does. So I say, okay, we're starting the insert menu. And so we've got you can start with the image. You can then go to text box, and then we can do table, and then we could do chart. And so the category remained insert menu. And so the title remained insert menu, even though the individual slide was now in this part of the insert menu, we have image, and this part of the insert menu, we have table in this part. And so each slide is talking about a discrete thing, but that was not reflected in the title. And I had to go back and fix that.
So if you're going to build on the same slide title, Heather, we talked about some solutions are letting people know that this is a series of slides that's going to discuss something, but you're building. So you could do best practices for links and hyperlinks, parentheses 1, and then 2, then 3, then 4. I liked to add something to it. So we're talking about best practices for links and hyperlinks. And then this one, what could I say? Because it is, well, it's actually, okay, so we're talking about, okay, that was just an example. So what could we add to this title to make it different?
Instead of just saying part 2.
You could do part 2, yeah. Or another example or something like that, an example or something, or 2. And actually, I think I like that better, Gara. So I'm going to go 1. And then I'm going to go 2. Because that way they know that it's a continuation, but it's not the same slide. Okay. Because when we convert this PowerPoint to a PDF, there's going to be bookmarks on the left-hand side. So if I have a screen reader, I can scan through my bookmarks to see what I want to look at. So if I see this, I'm going to know that the author hasn't made a mistake, but it's two different things. It's carrying over. So again, everything we do in this PowerPoint is necessary for when we convert it to a PDF, which is ultimately what someone with a disability may ask for. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let me move that over. So let's see what else we have here. Review auto-generated. Gareth, I see what you're talking about here. Content placeholder. Okay,
And
so
yeah, you added these pictures earlier, but it just generated the AI alt text.
Yuck.
And
okay.
there's no telling how close it is, if any at all.
Yeah, so let's just see. Let's go to alt text and just see. Oh, geez. A group of people in different poses. Yeah, that's terrible. Okay. So we'll have to fix that. I mean, we would fix all those. All right, so let me see here. I think warnings, hard to read text. We looked at this. So we did the alt text. Okay, we got 3 minutes left. So I'm going to scroll down and just a couple of reminders. See, I realized that I had too much text on the slide. So I broke this up into 2 different slides. So we talked about making sure your text is not too small or too big. Think about the location. We talked about that. Whether you're in a Zoom room or you are in the grand ballroom at the Hyatt in downtown Dallas or at a big TWC conference. Now, one thing we didn't talk about is do not use color as the only way to convey information. And I also, before I dig into that, I also want you not to use underlines anymore, because an underline means they think it's a hyperlink. Okay, remember when we did that descriptive text? Do not use underlines anymore. Stay away from underlines. Use bold or some type of a texture of your font if you want, but not an outline. But let's go back to color. Examples: colors used on a map to convey geographical regions without text too. So what I mean by that is I'm looking at a map of the United States, and the Western United States is orange. The East is green. So everything is colored. So how do I know which is which? So a good way to do that is you've got to have a text alternative. And this was hard for me sometimes. So in the key, I would have orange is the Western United States or something like that. Or on the map, I would have the color orange, and then I would have Western United States, because they can't see the orange. So just kind of keep that in mind as you build. We talked about transitions and animation should be simple and used sparingly. And I think one of the best examples of when you're going to need them is for math or explaining, like Gareth was saying, bringing in your answers or bringing in your other examples. But there's a lot of times when people use animations when they really don't need to use animations. Okay. Transitions are another thing we want to be really careful about. Complex, spastic, flashing, automatic transitions and animations can be distracting, confusing, and even painful for some people. If you have flashing transitions or animations, that can cause seizures for some people.
So on that topic, real quick, as an example, one of the things I learned is how to make a circle move and expand, because I had 2 things on the screen and I wanted to highlight one, but the one below it was a different size. So I just would move the circle and make it bigger. Is that too complicated an animation for accessibility, where it starts highlighting one circle or one item on a list, and then it moves to another item on the list?
This is so hard for me because I know how hard you work on these PowerPoints with math. And I do the same thing. I would challenge you to consider possibly another way to convey the information because I'm going to lean toward yes.
Okay.
I think if
Put it on another slide, maybe. Yeah?
That's what that was going to be my
That's what we
next
recommend.
strategy would be just to have instead of showing the circle moving, just have it circled on one slide and then have the other one circled on the other.
Yeah.
Just have two slides instead of one.
That is usually the solution for animations is we just do another slide, Heather, like you said, just move it down. Like,
Gareth, I did one where I had two highlighted areas, but they went in order, so the reader talked about the first one first and then talked about the second one, but they both appeared at the same time and I didn't animate them. They were literally like two circles.
And that allows someone that has a learning disability. We haven't talked a lot about people with learning disabilities, but animations can also be a challenge for someone that has a learning disability because they're having a hard enough time comprehending the content, and they may need to look at it a little bit longer. So if you take it away from them and bring in something else, it's just like the regular classroom. They're still trying to figure out the directions and you're already giving them the answer.
So this leads me to thinking about another thing, especially for the math presentations that I sometimes have to make. If I have, because I want to give them a chance to work on a question, I want them to see the question before the answers show up. We've used animations in the past to, make things appear as they come up in the conversation. But it sounds like that might be a little challenging for like the screen reader to handle. So would it be better to just, instead of having an animation all on one slide where things are exposed gradually over time, just have different slides that expose more and more at a time?
That's exactly right. It's kind of the waterfall effect. That's exactly right. Okay. Because if a person with a disability asks for a special, okay, so one thing we haven't talked about is accessibility is required. They don't have to ask for it. But they may ask for a special accommodation, and that special accommodation may be Anne Marie going in and taking all of those animations out and having different slides. So yes, Gareth, I think, having a different slide. And I'm working on it too, because I use animations way too much. And that's also a cue possibly that there's too much on your slide. Maybe you need to do more slides. And then you won't have to bring in different content at different times, right?
My only question that came up with this is because I wanted people, I have this thing where I just have one question on the slide and I wanted them to talk about that one question. And then before we go on to the next thing, and the problem is then I have to have a title too. And it's really awkward, like a question, a question about email and then the question. And it's just a little, So do I have to have a title for the question one?
Well, it may be awkward, but it's also starts to act like an outline. And if they have to review it later, it may not be as awkward.
Okay. So just do it. I did it, but I was like,
would that not be like a section header layout? So that way, the section header doesn't have the title.
Kind of has it
somewhere. I was thinking like the question is the title, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Could you use the title? So the title section of the slide, could you use that for the question and then?
Yeah, like Ryan, that's what you were saying, right?
No. One of the slide layouts is section header, and it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't have a title. It just has that box where it's like another.
Yeah.
I wondered
if I could use that for my question. I was considering using that one, but I didn't know.
I mean, that would make sense to me.
So you put a question or just one. Put the question or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have only maybe 2 slides that have just one question. Other ones have 2 questions. So then I was like, what do I do with the 2 questions? So that's why I eventually just said, forget it. I'll just put the titles because then I had 2 questions. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just want to, well, let me go back here before we close. Use clear and simple language. I think sometimes, again, I'm going to use myself as an example. You get so excited about all the different things you learn. you forget that maybe not everyone is as excited about all of the jargon and all of the fancy stuff that you're learning about. So, simple practitioner language is always, always, always best. And so everyone can understand. And then one thing we haven't, and don't, Gareth, this is something that you can always come to me with. If a PowerPoint has an embedded video, the video has to be captioned. And Gareth, I can show you how to do simple captions, download the file, but don't worry about that. We can all, those are the things that we can send out and have them do. So don't worry about that. And then remember, if you have audio, you include a transcript. Now, one of the ways that you can include a transcript if you do an audio file is put the audio transcript in the presenter notes section. And you can always give that to them, or you can have it as a difference. So I just wanted to kind of remind you. And those are WCAG. There's WCAG requirements for what's called pre-recorded video, live video. And then also, like if you're listening to a podcast. I'm a big podcast person. When I travel in the car, I listen to podcasts. Well, if I'm deaf, Houston, I need a transcript because I can't listen to the podcast, right? I can't hear it. So I need a transcript. So with that, we are 7 minutes over.
We had lots of questions, so it's fine.
Yes, I did too.
I know, but I don't know what to say other than thank you so much. I'm just amazed and humbled and so appreciative that you want to learn, and I hope that it's been helpful.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Anne Marie, because this has been extremely informative and has really helped me to sharpen up some of my presentations, and in ways that I didn't realize that they were slacking off.
Well, you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you know. The way I look at it, I didn't know either.
And this last week, I've kind of developed a workflow to go back through my old stuff and update it, so that I should probably be done with all of the slides that I've made so far by this time next week.
Yeah. Well, I'll just wrap this up by saying that the goal is to create a course in the PD portal for other trainers. And you have, you've just inspired me. And so when we do the video, I am going to put a little slide in there that says, I want to thank, no, seriously. And Ryan knows I'm a woman of my word. Gareth, as you get to know me, you will too. But there will be a little thank you slide because you really have helped me really think through how to create the training. And it's all going to be based on that guide, right? So you guys have really helped me from the ground floor. So I want to say thank you. And I see in the chat, y'all's questions are great. I had some of them too. Thanks for asking. Yes, I agree. Maxine. Thank you for asking. And again, thank you for spending over 90 minutes with me and your colleagues, because I learned a lot from you guys.
Very, very helpful. And I'm really thankful for it. So yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.